Hello and welcome to Home Gupshup. Today I'm back with another video on how I organize my fridge and the little things I keep in mind while arranging everything inside. I'll be sharing some ideas that really help me and a few simple tips and hacks to make even a small fridge look neat, functional, and maybe even a tad bit beautiful. Let's begin with the kind of containers I like to use. First up are glass carafes or bottles. They're great for keeping things visible and also bringing in a sense of uniformity. Then there are these plastic trays or bins that help make use of the entire depth of the fridge. I also use this 3-tier container mainly for fresh herbs that are essential for Indian cooking. And then there are my reused glass jars. I know we all have a bunch of these lying around, but what I like to do is add a big, bold label to the jar. This gives them a clean, uniform look, even though they're all different, and adds a bit of aesthetic value to it. Most of these jars are actually from sweet corn that I bought from the store. Turns out they're the perfect height for storing things on the fridge door, and they're not too heavy either. I like keeping things like tamarind chutney or green chilies here, especially because I want to use them up on time, and they're also super easy to reach when kept in this spot.
They couldn't change us, they couldn't catch us if they tried. Now we didn't care at all about winter or spring or fall.
I came across this trick recently to peel garlic by tossing the cloves in a box and shaking them hard. Tried it out, but honestly, it didn't work for me. So I just went back to peeling each clove one by one the old school way.
I guess I've had some things to figure out, but now that I'm done, I'm full of doubt.
Now, moving on to something that actually works. One simple but important habit for keeping the fridge organized is categorizing things, especially the random miscellaneous items. These tend to make the fridge look messy if left scattered. I use plastic bins to group all such items together and keep them out of the main shelves. Decide what counts as miscellaneous for you in your home and store it all in one spot. Another category I like to keep sorted is nuts. I've stored all of them in similar looking bottles on the top shelf of the fridge door. And for those of you who store spices in the fridge or similar things, try keeping them in matching bottles too. It just pulls everything together and makes the whole fridge look neater.
This shift, yeah, we had one of those things.
The third category of things I like to organize are herbs like coriander and mint, as I mentioned. Coriander isn't always easy to find for me, so I usually buy 2 bundles at a time. After washing and drying them well, I chop them fully and store them. This makes them super quick to use and honestly, if dried properly, they stay good for around 10 days easily and sometimes even more. I'm using a 3-tier container where 2 layers are filled with coriander this time, but sometimes I switch it up, one for coriander, the other for rosemary or mint. The bottom layer, however, I usually reserve for cheese and those sauce sachets that come with the deliveries. This box is always kept on the bottom-most shelf, and I've purposely adjusted that shelf to be shorter in height.
Look out, here she comes. Woman that I love. It's too bad she'll never know.
Then there are certain items that we usually store in the fridge but can actually stay outside, and that helps save a lot of fridge space. Things like coffee or Bournvita once opened often go straight into the fridge, but I've realized that if you use a well-sealed jar, these stay fresh outside just as well. In fact, moving them in and out of the fridge actually adds moisture and makes them spoil faster.
Picture in my mind. It's
So even if your fridge is small, it doesn't have to feel cluttered. With just a few tweaks, it can still look and function really well. If you also have half-opened packets that you tend to just dump in the fridge because you want them to stay fresh till the next use, try clipping them like this. I've started doing that lately and it really helps keep them together and in place without making the fridge look messy.
That I love her so well. She's with somebody else and I will have to let her go. She will never know, na-na. Never know, na-na. She will never know, na.
Now coming to how I divide the fridge shelves. This of course isn't a fixed rule, but just something I follow to keep things more accessible. Since the bottom shelf is already in use, I'm left with 2 more shelves. I usually reserve one of them just for cooked food.
Yeah, I can't be the only.
Now, fridge organization is honestly a continuous process and I feel the contents of the fridge need to be checked and rotated more often than we think. But having some kind of division in mind, especially in a small fridge, makes everything easier to manage.
Have to try as hard as I can, 'cause she'll never be mine. I listen when she talks, I watch her when she walks. She's giving.
Keeping a few things prepared in advance definitely helps more than anything. It saves us from ordering in and ensures that we eat home-cooked meals on time. Depending on the week's meal plan, I prep accordingly. But even without a set plan, there are some things I always keep ready, like chopped tomatoes. That way I only have to deal with the chopping board mess once. We get really big cabbages here, so I usually use only half at a time and store the rest in the veggie bin. The method that works best for me is cutting each half into 3 portions, then splitting each portion into 2, flattening them and chopping from one end to get thin strands. It makes storing and using them so much easier, especially on busy weekdays. I've dedicated the second fridge shelf to these chopped veggies and similar things. Boiled potatoes are another must-have, they come in handy so often. And while I know everyone has their own way, in our household we've realized that the moment we transfer store-bought items into our own containers, they get consumed faster, just don't know how. That's why I always shift yogurt into a separate container. It's easier to use, easier to store, and it saves us from the mess that often comes with those half-opened store packs with sticky lids. I've started shifting most drinks and juices into our own bottles or carafes. We are trying to cut down on Coke and fizzy drinks, so I like to keep better options like coconut water or buttermilk in the fridge. I usually make a small batch of buttermilk every day or every other day. Just a bit of yogurt, water, some spices, and chopped coriander and mint. It's super light and refreshing, especially during lunch.
I'm sorry if I'm coming off too strong, but maybe I'm just acting tough, 'cause deep down I'm scared of love, scared of love, scared of trust. But with you I'm brave enough to try again and just pretend that maybe I found the one again. I want you for the rest of my day, 'cause baby I don't know what to do. And if I lost you.
Also check the labels of what you're storing in the fridge. Some things may not even need to be there. I've created a little section in the drawer below the fridge for bottles like rose water and others that stay just fine outside. It helps free up a lot of space and keeps the fridge a little less packed.
For you, there's no coming back. Girl, you got me in the palm of your hands. I'm sorry if I'm coming off too strong.
In small fridges, divider bins can be a real savior for organizing veggies. Large pieces like leftover cabbage can be wrapped and stacked neatly. If the bins are on the smaller side, chopping veggies into compact portions helps them sit better and stay in place.
I'm the one again. I want you for the rest of my days. 'Cause baby, I don't know what to do if I lost you. The love of my life would kill me, it's true. 'Cause there'd be no me without you now. All my life, all my days, and all my nights. Want you.
This also leaves a bit of room on the sides for tucking in smaller packets or items that otherwise make the fridge feel cluttered. It may not be the ideal method, but in limited space scenario, a little improvisation goes a long way. Coming to the space that is above the fridge. That top of the fridge space is often ignored or avoided, but when needed, it can hold quite a bit. Tall baskets can be placed there to store onions and potatoes without them peeking out or making things look messy. Although I'm not a fan of storing things above the fridge, but with limited space, that's the best we can do. A separate basket can also be used for storing excess ginger and garlic, while I also like to keep a small piece of ginger tucked away on the counter for everyday use like, making chai. In that far corner above the fridge where it's a bit harder to reach, a Lazy Susan works wonderfully for storing miscellaneous things while still keeping them accessible. Sticking a whiteboard on the fridge's side has been a game changer. It's really great for writing quick reminders, to-do lists, or even rough meal plans. It becomes a little command center that keeps me on track without needing anything fancy. And one quick freezer tip that I'd like to add here, although I'm not covering the freezer today, but the tip is worth mentioning. Curry leaves store really well in the freezer. They may lose some color, but the flavor stays intact and they last much longer this way. So I've been using this for a while now. At the end of the day, fridge organization isn't about being perfect, it's about building a system that works for you and your home. A mix of small hacks, conscious choices, and adjusting based on space can make even the tiniest fridge feel more accessible and easier to manage. So that was all for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time, here's Home Gupshup signing off.